Hello, I'm Jake.
And I'm Rich.
And welcome
to LOLOUT.
Welcome to our new review series, The Good, The Bad, The Review.
So basically what we're going to do is we're going to be taking games and we're going to be highlighting what's good about them, what's bad, and what's downright ugly.
Ugly, ugly, ugly. And the game in today's firing line is The Long Dark. So in this series, we're going to briefly summarize the game and then break it down into what's good about it, what's bad about it, and then what's downright ugly about it.
So, to summarize The Long Dark, it's a survival game set in Canada.
Canada.
But yeah, it's set up in Canada where it's really cold and your plane has come down due to some sort of geomagnetic disaster. They haven't really explained yet, but they say they will in the story mode. And basically you just need to survive as long as you can against the elements.
So other than being a game in which you harvest ice, what's good about this game, Richie?
Well, it took a turn for a survival game, which not many dare to do, and it did not include zombies.
No zombies at all. We can verify there are no zombies.
Which is a good thing.
So, as a survival game without zombies, it is a breath of fresh air in the industry, and we can verify the core mechanics are solid in the game. There isn't really any bugs, and that's brilliant seeing as it's an early access game.
And it never really tries to pretend to be more than an early access game in its current state, which is also a good thing.
Another plus of this game is the art style, which is very distinctive, very pretty, and really it's just quite a good looking game in a whole, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's highly stylized, which can be done very well, and here we think it has been.
Especially when you look at things like weather conditions, nighttime, the moon's really good in it, the lighting's fantastic, especially when you're inside buildings.
Yeah, it's just brilliant all around, the art style. So in addition to having a solid and good art style, the soundtrack is brilliant. It always lets you know the tone of the game. When it starts to turn to night, there's a low and haunting guitar part, and when you exit a building during the day, there's a nice hopeful sound.
And when you find new places, if you discover a location that you haven't been to before, there's a nice uplifting kind of, it's very atmospheric, kind of haunting, windy sounds, aren't they?
Yeah. And the atmosphere of the game is just so immersive all the time.
If there's one key point for this game, in the good side, that I can pick out, is that it's incredibly gripping in terms of atmosphere. The music, it's not really music, is it? It's more just...
soundtrack.
It's a score, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really complements the vibe of the game.
So, the options, they're very good. They have an FOV slider, which
should be fucking a given by now.
But a lot of games don't have it, and playing with a smaller FOV than you should do can really give some people headaches.
Headaches, and it just looks terrible.
That too. Aside from the FOV, the options are pretty good. There's a load of different settings for quality, you can control the sound levels, and you can rebind pretty much all of the keys.
Which is important, isn't it?
It's a very good thing because a couple of the default key settings are a little dubious at best.
I mean, some of the key bindings just don't fit right, some of the default, that is. I mean, F and E are both free keys in the default vanilla game, and yet it's I for your inventory and H to holster your weapon.
Which just doesn't feel natural to reach all the way over there to put any items away or go into your inventory.
But early access will let them off.
Speaking of early access, it doesn't appear that the devs have or indeed will abandon this game. It looks like they're with it to the end.
It doesn't seem like much of a cash grab, this game. You see that a lot on Steam nowadays, devs saying, early access, buy this, and then within a couple of months they're just like, one update every 4 years, and it just slowly dies.
Yeah, and they're currently working towards building in a story mode, which will really give the game more to be there.
Yeah. Also, the big feature in this game is permadeath, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you die, then all of your progress is lost, which fits with the atmosphere of the game.
So we put it in the good section.
However, we do think that it might be an idea to add in an optional permadeath, so
more casual players can have a nicer experience if they don't want to go for the hardcore straight up death. If you'd spent 20 hours in the game and then just a little fucking wolf sneaks up on you and you're dead, it's gonna suck.
So now we move on to what we consider the bad features of The Long Dark. Initially, it says that the alpha build has a sandbox mode, but that's not quite an accurate description.
Because there's multiple different zones you have to travel to in the games, and the zones are separated with loading screens.
And transition zones as well.
Yes, so it's not correct in calling it sandbox. It is a big map that you can explore, but it's not a sandbox game.
30 square kilometers last time I checked.
Hot damn. Sometimes in the game it feels like crafting is a tad forced and a bit too difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah, for example, currently you need to cure hides and guts in order to make use of them in crafting, and you only find out that you need to do that by reading their item descriptions, and even then it's not 100% obvious that you need to drop it inside and then wait a few days for it to finish curing before you can use it.
In some ways, this in-depth crafting and this in-depth just way of the game is fitting with, with how it's trying to be. But on another level, it's not remotely intuitive. It's not remotely intuitive.
Yeah, if they sort of had like a tutorial the first time you played it, or even an optional tutorial in the menu, then that might make it more, instinctive for players.
Another point that we wanted to raise about what's probably quite bad about this game is that it has no basic building. And we're not saying this game needs Rust or Minecraft style building, but a sense of ownership, or be able to build a small tent, or maybe a maximum like a shitty little log hut, would give a player way more feeling of pride and personal places, wouldn't it?
Yeah, just a sense of, it's cold out here, I need to build a shelter, rather than it's cold out here, oh, I'll go and squat in some house that was left behind.
Now, we know this is an early access game, but in this review series we're going to cover games as they are right now with us playing them. And one thing this game desperately needs is a solid bit of balancing work.
Because some of the ways that the stats interact with each other just doesn't quite gel right.
One example of that would be healing.
Yeah.
If you've been, for example, attacked by a wolf and you're bleeding profusely, you're, disorientated,
got a sprained wrist.
Yeah, you can take painkillers and a bandage and you'd be pretty much set.
Instantly.
There's no time for it to kick in, there's no real side effects, it's just a straight up med kit, really, isn't it?
Yeah. But as we say, this is an early access game, so hopefully that balancing will come later. Another point is that you're given a max carry limit of 30 kilograms. Now, you can go over that, but that slows you down, it tires you out faster, and that's something that you don't want in a survival game. Now, unfortunately, once you've reached the level where you're pretty much set, you need to carry around about 28 kilograms of gear or more, which is just under the limit and means that you've got barely any space to play around with.
It gives you no room to really try and fill up your inventory or manage it, really, does it?
No, it doesn't. You almost have to say, which essentials can I do without for this journey?
Yeah, which in some ways makes the game more of a challenge, which is good and bad. But in a game that relies so heavily on hunting and gathering, it becomes a right bitch.
It really does. I mentioned that you can get to a point where you're pretty much set, but the problem is, once you're at that point, it's all just kill an animal, harvest its meat, cook its meat, eat the meat,
Cure the guts.
repeat.
Yeah. It becomes, a point of the game is basically to survive. And there are two things you have to do. You have to eat and make sure you're okay. So you have to hunt and you have to gather. That's basically all the game is. If you leave in the morning, get some food, come back, cook it, eat it, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And I can see that if you spend a long time in this game, you're going to hit the wall of boredom, really hit the wall of boredom really fast, because you're going to loot every place that can be looted, you're going to run out of all your shit, and at the end of the day it's just going to be quite a predictable line of events, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, new zones do help to reduce the boredom. They give you another couple hours maybe, and we do accept that real survival would be boring, predictable, just keep doing the same thing over and over because that's what you need to do.
But the thing is, this is a game, and they do other allowances for being a game, don't they? They make it so you get tired quicker than you would in real life, you have to eat quicker than real life. So all we're trying to say is there could be far better ways of managing time in this game, and more interesting things to do with your time.
Now what they are we don't quite know, but hopefully they'll be implemented before the game is in its full release state.
And now, for the last segment in this review, what's really ugly about this game?
Just to clarify here, seeing as this is our first time, by ugly we mean like truly broken and really needs fixing.
The worst parts of this game. And what is the first part of this game that really pisses us off? Thirst is broken.
Okay, so you can go to sleep with no thirst at all, so you've just filled up on water, and you go to sleep for like 4 or 5 hours, and you wake up dehydrated fully, so you need to drink or your condition will deteriorate.
You can get to the point where you can sleep with your stats on pretty much full, high, you're just tired, you've drunk a lot, you're nice and full. You go to sleep for, say, 12 hours because you've got hypothermia, and you could die in your sleep from dehydration.
It is a bit ridiculous, the thirst problem.
If you're stranded in the Canadian wilderness after a plane crash, what's the first thing you want to do? I know what mine is. Take my underwear and trousers off, put on a warm coat, and run through the snow.
Because in the long dark, you're absolutely fine doing that, but in real life, you're losing heat all out through your feet, and it's just not good.
You want snowballs? No. No, devs, we don't want snowballs. Fix this. It's too easy, isn't it? It's too easy to get warm like that.
It is.
So basically, what you can do is you can get a warm coat on, and that's pretty much where all your character's warmth is derived from, isn't it?
Yeah, it can give you high enough warmth stats that okay, it's only the nicest days, but on the nicest days, you can actually walk around with pretty much just a really warm coat on.
Which ain't right.
Especially not in a snowy place like
Canada.
Something that might help with the boredom problem is if you were able to preserve meat. Now, at the moment, the meat will degrade relatively quickly, and each kill will last you a couple of days tops, whereas if you take down a deer in real life, you expect to be able to eat from that for quite a while.
Weeks at least. I think a great update to this game would be add some kind of preservation, even freezing it. Actually in this game is a negative thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But if you could freeze meat, if you could salt meat, that'd give... right now I don't think they can do that because there isn't enough content to allow that to happen. If you could preserve meat, half of the game disappears.
It really does, because once you've preserved meat, then you don't need to hunt as often, and that's like Jake said, half the game right there.
Which leads to another point. You can't cut down trees in the game, which I think is just a flat out missed opportunity.
Here's how we think this could work. The shelters that you find, or indeed build if building basic shelters is ever added, could degrade slowly over time depending on the weather conditions. Like if it's a blizzard, it starts degrading faster. Now, the only way to repair it is with wood from cut down trees.
Lumber.
Which would require the adding of a new tool like a woodsman's axe, but that shouldn't be too difficult in theory.
So the players can leave their shelters, get a woodsman's axe and spend a lot of time cutting down a tree, refining it, getting the wood sorted, and then they have to then repair the shelters they've built or they're staying in. So what that does is that gives them an incentive to go out, because they can't just sit inside their house and be happy for days, because their house is going to fall down on top of them. And it also gives another layer of realism to the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it just gives them more things to do.
More things to play with. Because right now, hunting goes, oh shit, that's a big part of the game gone. What can I do now? Just go around and gather sticks. Oh.
Stick Gathering Simulator 2016.
Snow melting simulator. What we're trying to say is it's a Canada Simulator 2016.
Essentially.
Hey? The last ugly part about this game is the price tag.
Now, seeing as we're from England, we're going to be working in pounds sterling. So, it is £15.
About $20, $22, something like that?
Something like that. Now, in its current state, I would not say that it's worth that, but it is worth the price that it is on sales.
Yeah, if the game goes up on sale, we're definitely saying it's worth a snag, because at the end of the day you're going to get a lot of fun from it, and this game has huge potential.
It really, really does.
I mean, in conclusion, the potential of this game is ridiculously high. It's going to be a fantastic game if the devs keep working as they are.
Especially because the devs are working so hard.
However, currently, you cannot justify a £15 price tag on a game that probably realistically has, 6 to 12 hours gameplay?
Yeah, something like that.
Which just, you can get far better deals now on Steam. So what we're saying is, there's not enough content yet, but I'm sure there will be. And it's most definitely worth a buy if it comes up on sales.
So, in conclusion, this is a good game, but wait for the sales.
Goodbye everyone, thanks for watching.